Join us every Friday night at midnight for Spook House Radio Live, where we cover everything paranormal. And we've got 2 news shows on alternating Wednesdays at 10 p.m. Eastern. First, we've got a new horror show. I'll podcast on we discuss everything horror entertainment. And Retro After Dark, where we take on everything from the 70s, 80s, and 90s, cartoons, movies, video games, and more. So tune into all of our shows. Keep in touch and get the schedule at midnightspookhouse.com, Twitter at The Spook House, and Facebook at The Midnight Spook House.
Mass UFO sighting.
Now, this creature is said to prowl the swamps.
Everything is alive.
Becomes more transparent and then finally disappears.
They're a lot closer than we've been thinking. They are a lot closer than we've been thinking. What do you think, Ryan? You think all right, let's save that for later. I'm Dale, and how are you doing, everyone? Hope you're doing well. We are here, and we're on time for maybe the second time ever. And, of course, with me, as always, is Ryan. How are you?
I'm here to break some records.
Break some records?
On time every time.
That's mighty bold, but we're going to try our very best. And later on in the show, with Megan on, she's got some news. It's a bomb she wants to drop, metaphorically. It's pretty cool news, actually. I can't wait to hear the reaction from it. It's going to be fun.
Is this full alien disclosure?
Absolutely definitive proof. It answers all questions you'll ever have. But no, it's pretty awesome. And we've got some really cool topics tonight, some things. We have set the bar really high with with the real men in black.
They're not listening. It's always a thought in the back of my head.
Yeah, that's actually funny. It reminds me of an email I got, but that'll come up later in this show as well.
Okay.
Yeah. So we've got the Dyatlov Pass. If you don't know anything about it, that's why we're here. And if you do know about it, well, let's talk about it. On the other half of the show, it is considered the Siberian Valley of Death. You can find it as Siberian spheres and multiple other ways, but I think it's far less known than things like Chernobyl and the Dyatlov Pass, for example. But I think you'll be interested. So,
well, they say locals, you don't go there because if you do, you won't come back. But we'll get to that.
I think every town has one of those. You don't go into them woods, you won't come back. But I can't do that in Russian, old man. So we'll keep the local, old man. All right, so let's get to the news, Ryan. You go ahead and kick us off.
Okay, let's see. First thing I have, this could be considered another money-making opportunity for any of you out there interested in making some extra side cash.
We have been tossing out all kind of ideas to make some cash, haven't we?
Now, this one is going to require some nanny experience.
Uh-oh.
So keep that in mind, too. So there's a family in Scotland, and they're looking to hire a new live-in nanny. This job comes with great pay, comfortable private living quarters, paid vacation time.
Wow.
But the downside is that the place is haunted.
Oh, no.
So
you know what? There's got to be somebody out there who that's not a downside for, maybe.
Yeah, well, we'll get to that in a second.
All right.
So what's interesting about this is you can view their actual posting for the job online right now with all of these juicy details.
I sent you a picture today where someone had posted an application link in the newspaper, and it took up half the page because it was like %32 apply online %64. Come on, URL shorteners are a thing now. Any which way, go ahead. I digress.
So in the most recent update to the job posting, they decided to go ahead and be honest and upfront about everything. And they revealed that the past 5 nannies that they've hired quit the job due to supernatural incidents.
Oh.
And so that includes broken glass, furniture, and other things moving around on their own, weird voices and noises.
These things all could be attributed to children as well, it sounds like.
It could be. But, these were professional nannies, I guess.
Are they like the super nannies and things? Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so. That's a bigger thing in the UK, I guess. So the couple says that before they decided to move there, they were told that the place was haunted. This was like 10 years ago, but they decided to keep an open mind about everything and go ahead and buy the place anyway. So with 5 nannies down, they decided they'd better go ahead and be more upfront in their job posting about that. So
I think that's a pretty good decision.
So the pay for this thing is they're talking $64K a year.
Ooh.
With added benefits, paid holidays, all the bank holidays off and everything. The living quarters has its own private kitchen and private bathroom. I mean, if you can put up with some ghosts, you'd be set for a while.
Yeah, that's not like doctor pay, but if you consider that you don't have to pay your own way, it becomes doctor pay. That's pretty legit if you can handle the ghosts.
You'll be the head of the household for 4 days a week. So they'll be back on the weekends, and I guess then you would have weekends off too. So yeah, something to keep in mind if you've got some babysitting experience and you can put up with some spooky happenings.
Yeah, if you can.
There. So, but I'll post the job listing on the webpage if you'd like, if anybody's interested in actually reading that. It's kind of weird to see, because it's a legitimate,
Well, you know what?
But
they're sending, what is it, a zinger into space? I can believe it. I'll never get over that.
Because it's because of the supernatural part of the listing, they've been kind of swamped with emails on it, and they've as of today, actually the 23rd, they posted that thank you for the overwhelming response. Obviously, we can't respond to everyone, but they're looking for serious inquiries only. So they're serious about this place being haunted, and they are still serious about paying you $64K a year to be their live-in nanny. So,
my concern is that, everybody's going to be like, oh yeah, I can do it, and then something actually happens, and then they're back for what, number 9, number 10 or whatever they're up to now.
Number 6 then. Yeah. So it's been 5 so far. And every one of them have been run out by this spirit or spirits, whatever it may be.
I think people are brave until confrontation. Yeah. Well, that's neat, man.
Something to keep in mind.
Yeah, that's anybody out there who needs a job, Ryan is here to help you out. Well, I have some pretty cool news. I'm usually the guy with the bad news, but tonight I've got some pretty neat news. NASA scientists
in my dreams tonight.
Yeah, I'll try not to. No guarantees. So NASA scientists on Monday announced the discovery of 219 new objects beyond our solar system that are almost certainly planets. What's more, 10 of these planets may be rocky, about the size of Earth, and habitable. How cool is that?
That Goldilocks zone. That's what we like.
That's what we like. The data comes from the space agency's long-running Kepler exoplanet hunting mission. 2009 through the 2013, Kepler stared down at about 145,000 sun-like stars in a tiny section of the night sky near the constellation Cygnus. Most of the stars in the view were hundreds of thousands of light years away, so there's little chance humans will ever visit, or at least anytime soon. However, the data could tell astronomers how common Earth-like planets are and what the chances of finding intelligent extraterrestrial life might be. They said, we have taken our telescope and we have counted up how many planets are similar to the Earth in this part of the sky. Susan Thompson, a Kepler research scientist at the SETI Institute, said, we said how many planets there are similar to Earth. With the data I have, I can make that count, she said. We're going to determine how common other planets are, and there are other places we could live in the galaxy that we could call home. Added to Kepler's previous discoveries, the 10 new Earth-like planet candidates make 49 total, Thompson said. If any of them have stable atmospheres, there's a chance they could harbor alien life. And what do you think about that? I mean, that just kind of blows my mind that it just keeps coming up like this. This certainly isn't the only time recently.
Yeah, you keep hearing about this, so obviously it's becoming, that rocky, planet. I use the term Goldilocks zone. I think was the early kind of term coined for that, but that's becoming more and more regular.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the chance that there's life, extraterrestrials still up in the air, but the chances of there being life out there in the universe, I think, are pretty solid.
It keeps going up every time they find.
Absolutely.
Like in the intro, they're closer than we think. Maybe they are. There was a few episodes ago, we spoke about a planet close to us that was inhabitable, and some things about aliens and whatnot. So it just like you said, our chances keep going up. So that's awesome. If you're into that, if you want to believe, if you don't, well, hate to break it to you.
And not to say that the technology is primitive, but the whole Kepler program is kind of in its infancy, if you think about it. So the technology is just going to continue to improve, and we're just going to continue to find more examples of these extraordinary planets. It's an exciting time.
Yeah, we're unlocking our potential little by little, and we're finding these things to be true. We've discussed how we often find things to be untrue, and we take things from being cryptids to just, being normal things, but sometimes we go, and that's why we're here every Friday night. That's why.
So, mentioning cryptids, again, that leads me to my next story. So, I caught wind of another paranormal research group that's centered in Western North Carolina.
Okay, well, that's fairly local to us.
Yeah. I thought that was pretty neat. They specialize in Bigfoot sightings.
Ooh.
So they refer to it as the Beast of the Blue Ridge.
Are they chasing that $1 million? Is that what they're after?
I don't know. I wonder if they're aware of that.
I don't know. We should make them aware of that.
Because what it sounds like from the description of their group is they are ready to believe you when it comes to Bigfoot encounters.
Well, it's about time. Not enough people believe me. I talk about it and nobody listens, so I'm glad somebody will.
So if anybody's listening from the Western North Carolina region, I think they're centered in Charlotte. This group is interested in investigating your Bigfoot encounters.
Right on.
They say if you see a Bigfoot, your best bet is to call Bigfoot 911, and that's the name of their group.
That is a great name,
Bigfoot 911. So they've got about 50 members. They've been called a small group, but I think that's a pretty generous size of people interested in Bigfoot.
I do think so, yeah.
And one of them is an expert Bigfoot caller.
Well, all right. How does that work? Any idea how that works?
Well, some people, have reported, being in the woods and at night and hearing strange things and have attributed that to a Bigfoot call.
Okay.
So that's some kind of mating call, or I'm honestly not sure.
Yeah.
But Bigfoot makes a very specific noise that several reported to kind of sound the same. So I guess that's where you're.
All right. Well, I can accept that. Who am I to say what it sounds like? I have no idea. I've never heard it. So
they're an open-minded group, and they're ready to investigate pretty much any encounter anybody wants to tell them about.
Mm-hmm.
They like to go in and collect as much evidence as possible and help you determine that what you saw was actually a Bigfoot, or if he, just kind of dismissed as something more natural. And they spend a lot of time investigating the forests in Western North Carolina. I guess just kind of a Bigfoot expedition. Go out into the field and even more evidence.
That is old school, and I like that. I like that they're not going to come and say, "Yep, you spotted Bigfoot." They're going to come and say, "Where it? What did it sound like? What did it look like? Let us go out and actually, put our feet to the ground."
Yeah,
I like that. It's been a long time coming since groups have been proactive. I think. I feel like so many people sit around and theorize from their armchairs, as they say.
Yeah, you can sit at your desk and concoct all the theories you want, but really getting out into the field, that's where you're going to find the real evidence.
Yes.
and maybe your own sightings.
So kudos to those 50 people. That's awesome.
So if you've seen a Bigfoot, within that region, if you want to contact them, you can find them on Facebook. They're at facebook.com/Bigfoot911, or you can directly with your story at Bigfoot911BobR@gmail.com. I'm assuming Bob R might be the person, their leader or something. So I'm interested in the Bigfoot call.
Me too.
Personally, maybe we could reach out to these guys and see if they'd want to talk to us.
Yeah, that would be great. I would love to hear about anything they've come up with, and I definitely would love to hear that Bigfoot call. I'm curious. I'm with you on that.
And kind of discuss some of the evidence they've found and some of the encounters they may have talked to people about. I think it's interesting to hear.
I agree.
Ready to believe you too.
Well, so here. Kudos to you fellows and ladies. Thank you. That's I told you that I reached out to that other group, and so far I haven't heard anything back. I don't take it personally because I don't man our email very well either. Until I know it comes showtime, I don't really even check it, to be honest. So I get that. Well, yeah. So hopefully we'll have a lot of people that'll come talk to us about Bigfoot. Learn a little something.
I mean, people there's still faith out there that Bigfoot, he's out there. I talked about in our cryptid episode that I was getting kind of discouraged on Bigfoot evidence.
Mm-hmm.
I was kind of hoping that we would something by now.
Well, maybe we just maybe it's just because you and I haven't been looking personally. Somebody's looking for us.
Yeah, I mean, I'll admit I haven't exactly been out in the woods for Bigfoot or anything. So, like you said, I'm an armchair theorist.
Well, I didn't throw that one at you exactly, but yeah, I get your point.
Maybe it's time to reach out to some experts, see what's going on locally with Bigfoot.
Well, I've got a strange little news story now.
Let's hear it.
This is just going to change the mood. Yeah, this one's going to change the mood completely. So, residents of a village in South Africa have been gripped with fear following the birth of a monstrous-looking sheep that appears to be almost human. Panic took over the town of Lady Frere. I always end up with the stories. When photos of the mutated stillborn lamb spread throughout the community, and some of the village elders declared had been sent by the devil. Subsequent suspicions of witchcraft at work in the village or an unholy union between man and beast spawned considerable concerns. Their worries were so profound that the South African government actually sent an official to examine the creature and determine its true nature. Following tests conducted by a veterinarian, it was determined that the unfortunate animal was simply a sheep that had mutated during the gestation process. Despite the assurances by officials that the creature is not demonic, the villagers remain uneasy. So is this going to be one of those where panic in the streets for no good reason, or is this going to be the test wasn't fully conclusive and maybe you should actually there? What do you think?
This it sounds like the villagers are being a little more superstitious than
I feel like we're back in witch times, don't you? Witchcraft.
Did you see photos of the creature?
I did, yes. It looks to me, it looks like a pig, if you want my honest opinion. It's a sheep, but I swear to you, it looks like a pig. I'll put the link up and you think for yourself.
Well, I'll definitely check it out and see what I think of that, because I don't know. Is this a result of the unholy union between man and beast?
Oh, God. Please don't let it be. This is not the way, folks. You hear the jokes, but you don't think about it realistically. All right. Well, let's move on to something a little more fun then. Something a little less disturbing. These days, it is not rare to find UFO enthusiasts getting mocked for their beliefs. Hence, why we're here. Brazil's night of UFOs happened on May 19th, 1986, and involved 21 unidentified objects that were spotted by the Air Force radars. What was rather interesting about the night of UFOs was not just the number. The reaction and transparency of the military and government during the immediate aftermath of the incident was very notable. Apart from these, the alleged involvement of the U.S. government has also managed to catch the attention of avid UFO enthusiasts. During Brazil's Night of UFOs, the country's Air Force was deployed in order to investigate and, if necessary, engage the objects.
Oh.
The Air Force scrambled military aircraft for the mission, including Northrop F-5E Tiger II aircraft and Dassault Mirage 3 fighters. Both of these aircrafts were quite capable of flying at high speeds, but according to reports, the UFOs simply outran them. The unidentified objects reportedly flew as fast as 2,500 miles per hour and ultimately won the cat and mouse game between them and the Air Force.
Well, I mean, again, if we are to assume that these are extraterrestrial in origin, I mean, we have to also assume that they have the technology and the ability to, just leaps and bounds. That's really an understatement to our level of technology now. So.
I just want to state the fact that this was really a story to kind of push us away from the unholy union. It hasn't been recent news and since about 1986. But no, it come back up recently because May 19th was just a little bit ago. And I thought it was a really cool story that I had never heard personally. I like the whole cat and mouse thing. Yeah. And then the transparency of the government, man. That's awesome.
Did they receive a lot of, with multiple witnesses? Was this kind of like a Phoenix Light?
Yeah, I think it was, except, because it was in Brazil, obviously we didn't really hear about it. And you got to remember, in 1986, word doesn't get in the world about UFOs.
Right, exactly.
So that's why it was a good time to bring that up. Forget the unholy union. Focus on UFOs. But no, there was no unholy union, thankfully. At least not in the news. But I thought it was a cool story. I just love it. The transparency of the government. I wish there was more of that here.
Yeah, and that's another subject we need to tackle. Again, why the secrecy?
Why?
What is there to gain from keeping all of that under wraps?
Mm-hmm.
I've got many things there, but it'd be an interesting discussion for another time.
Absolutely. And I have no doubt that we will get to it. I want to welcome everyone. I see Princess Jazz in the house and Mookie Mook and a few others that are anonymous to me. I can't tell you who they are or where they're at, but thank everyone for hanging out with us tonight. I hope that you enjoyed.
Really awesome.
Yeah, we've been excited about this show, and I'm hoping to cross that bar of the real Men in Black. So let's do a quick break, and when we come back, we'll go ahead and we'll get to the Dyatlov Pass. Are you ready to go, man?
Let's do it.
We'll be right back.
Listen up, you brainless boob. Do you enjoy talking about 80s action figures and toys? Perhaps your favorite is the Snake Mountain playset. If that's the case, tune into the Retro After Dark radio show, broadcasting every other Wednesday night at 10 p.m. Eastern Time. For more details, check show times at midnightspookhouse.com. It's one you won't miss, you pea-brain.
If you're on this trail at a certain time of night, you hear a train whistle, don't look behind you, you run, and don't look back. If you turn around, the last thing you'll see is the light of the ghost train before it plows through you.
Spookhouse Radio. I don't like the sound of a ghost train plowing through me, the more I think about it. At first, I was somewhere in the middle. I was like, you know what, maybe. I've decided, don't like the idea. But that's for another day. Let's get to the Dyatlov Pass. Ryan, you have the story, I think. Tell us all about it, sir.
Let's see. Oh my gosh, I've dropped my notebook.
Oh, you're fine. It's really one of those things, where to even begin anyway? You could come from so many angles, but I'll let you do it your way, and then we'll talk about it.
Okay, so, all right. The gist of the story is, and this let's see, and correct me on the date if I'm wrong, February 2nd, 1956?
1959 is what I've got.
59.
Yeah.
All right. So what we have is a group of, it was a team of hikers that were hiking up this mountain range. At some point in the night, or they get halfway to their destination, and then they decide to settle for the night. So they're supposed to, I guess by standard protocol, they're supposed to radio into the camp to let them know what they're doing and where they are. That's just standard protocol, just so you can know where everybody is and make sure nobody's frozen to death or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't radio in, which caused obvious suspicion at the camp and everything. So essentially, they were never heard from again. So they, the members of the, I guess camp's the wrong word, like the base camp, they go to find the missing hikers, and they discovered a gremlin there. Essentially, they found all of the hiking team deceased. And
I think deceased is how you have to word it, just because of of all the differences. Yeah.
So where to begin from here? This is just such a bizarre incident. First of all, one of the most interesting points to me is, everybody was found in numerous different locations around the campsite.
Mm-hmm.
Some people were barely clothed, wearing only, socks and undergarments. Some people were wearing shredded clothing that belonged to other members.
Right, which explained that they're in the middle of what is essentially a blizzard to us, wearing underwear. Why?
Right.
Why?
So when they examined the tent, or the tents that they were staying, whatever happened that night, they were trying to escape it from within their tents, because evidence showed that they had tried to cut their way out of the tents from the inside.
Yeah, like not something they were trying to escape quickly from inside.
Yeah, exactly. So they theory that happened was that they were engaged by a local native tribe,
mm-hmm.
I guess, that inhabits that mountain pass, but they had to rule that out, mm-hmm. because there's no evidence of any other tracks,
right,
besides the victims' trails.
Think about that. They're in underwear cutting out of a tent, and there's no strange tracks.
So what was so terrifying to drive you from the tent at night, so terrifying that you had to escape that tent by slashing your way out of it. There's not even time to out the actual entrance of the tent.
If I may, I would like to, I wouldn't like to, but I want to share the things they found when they found the bodies, if that's all right.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, they had determined that 6 had died from hypothermia, but don't write that off, because that still doesn't explain. These were 9 people who knew well what they were doing. This wasn't.
Yeah, once again, these aren't like, local. Oh, let's go on a hike. It'll be fun. This
isn't like Turistas, the movie, or anything. This is know what they're doing. They came from an institute. I mean, these were folks who had done this multiple times. So again, don't rule out the hypothermia as, okay, well, they just froze to death. Why? Why would you freeze to death out there? You still have to question that. But the 3 others showed physical trauma. One had a fractured skull. Another had brain damage. And then this is the one that gets me. Additionally, the tongue and eyes of a female team member were missing. And it was concluded that it was from an unknown force. They have no idea.
That's what's baffling about all of this is that the official explanation, once they concluded the investigation of the area and everything, the officials from the government, their statement was that they were killed by, quote, an unknown compelling force.
That's it.
So, can you imagine that on an official report? Like, what does that mean?
It's baffling. The whole thing.
Compelling force. And what's interesting about the guy that, he suffered brain damage was there were no external injuries to his head.
Yeah.
So what caused the trauma to his brain without, any kind of external injuries? That's
the question.
Baffling to me.
Yeah, they say that diaries and cameras found around their campsite made it possible to track the route, but unfortunately, it doesn't answer any of the questions. I mean, how could it? It's not like they're out there streaming to YouTube, in 1959. They were tragic. They were so young. I mean, again, don't take away from their age, but they were like 23, 24. One of them was like 38, and I
think there was a 38-year-old and there was a 70-something.
75, yeah.
Yeah. Everybody else, they were in their early 20s. Tragic what happened.
It is.
So that's what happened. Well, vaguely, I guess.
Yeah, sure. It's quite a story.
So let's talk about some of the theories of, what do you think that was? I've known about this story for some time now, and I've kind of developed my own theories about it. When you were doing on this story, did you come across any accounts of discolored skin on the victims or radiation being present?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. That's one of the theories, one of the explanations. You go ahead and take that one since you brought that one up. Yeah, I did see that. Yeah,
I think it was on 2 of the victims. They appear to have been exposed to a high level of radiation.
Mm-hmm. And gray hair.
Their skin
yeah, by the way.
Yeah, that's another thing. We said everybody was, within their early 20s.
Mm-hmm.
Their hair had grayed.
They actually describe what had happened to their skin and hair as what happens in 3 months of the natural process of mummification.
Yes.
They were essentially, their bodies were as if they had been mummified.
Yeah. So how does that, I mean, dying of hypothermia looks much different than that, especially for mummification.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just kind of astonishing.
It is. It's so against what we know to happen. And, it does lend itself to radiation because we all have seen what happened at Chernobyl. But I don't know. It feels like that's just not the answer to me. I don't know the answer, but it feels like it's something else. I don't know.
And they say some of them died from particular types of organ failure.
Right, yeah.
Bizarre, scary event.
It is.
So let's kind of talk about the theories.
All right, so you've got radiation.
Let's go ahead and knock out the 2 theories that I think are absolutely ludicrous. Like, these are just the most BS cop-out theories ever.
Yeah.
It's been proposed that it was a windstorm.
Mm-hmm.
Which is just,
it says that the wind caused them to essentially panic. That there was this like current that you can explain with science. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't mean to step on your toes there. That one is just insane. Go ahead. God.
So, and again, as we mentioned, these people, they weren't, newbies to the whole,
mm-hmm.
Expedition scene there. These were, seasoned people. They knew what to expect and what they were getting into. I don't see people freaking out and cutting their way out of their tent to escape someone, if the wind's picking up.
Right.
seems to me like even if you were panicked, you would know that, hunkering down in the tent is your best bet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sticking together with clothes on, not running out of your tent with no clothes on, essentially.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think we can assume that that one's BS.
May I take the other one? I just get itchy to take these ones. I just want to be like, they're irritating. This one, supposedly, it's highly implausible, even they say, but by all indications, there could a romantic intent that turned sour. A fight could not have left the massive injuries. That's all they say about that. This was not a Springer episode. And I think to even say that is absolutely, it's asinine. To quote Hank.
So even if we humor the thought of it being foul play, a lover's spat or whatever, maybe that resulted in the cutout eyes and tongue from one of the female members, but so did somebody then, whip out their radiation gun and take out those other two guys?
Yeah, did they essentially mummify the bodies instantly? Right.
It doesn't account for everything.
No.
If what you had here was your traditional murder scene, you find some, kind of slasher victims to put it, simply.
Mm-hmm.
I could see an explanation like that, but that doesn't account for all of the strange evidence that we talked about so far.
No, not at all.
So
go ahead and grab another one of these theories. Most of them are a little closer to realistic.
I heard it was a bear attack.
Mm-hmm.
It was Smokey the radioactive bear, I guess.
Right.
And again, you can wipe that out because again, when the theory came up that it was, a local entanglement, that they actually engaged another group, in hand to hand during the night,
mm-hmm.
There's no evidence of anybody else being there. The tracks of the victims fleeing the tent were still visible.
Yeah, I mean, that these were going to be frozen until it snowed and covered them.
Yeah, so you can't say that it snowed during the night and covered the tracks. Well, that would have covered the victims' tracks as well.
Right.
So,
and what are the odds that took the eyes out of a lady and Smokey Bear says, "Give me your Vienna sausages, I'm starving." I don't get it. That's kind of, I don't know. That one, I'm with you. I don't agree with that one either. But at least it's not as stupid as wind. Let's not take these lives down to a wind.
So it's safe to say that theories that this was, somebody locally, even if it was, the fact that there were no other tracks out, even bandits on the trail, they was hiding out wanting to rob, that rules that out too.
It does.
So let's look then at the paranormal. Let's explore some of those theories people have proposed about what went on that night.
Well, there's also the avalanche theory, but I don't see it really. I mean, I'm just saying, like, yeah, let's go on to more plausible. And I know paranormal is usually not the plausible explanations, but I don't think it was an avalanche either. I think it covered all the tracks that they ended up with. It just wouldn't make sense.
If I was just in everyday conversation with you, what would you propose your personal theory as to what this was? I mean, is this something?
Well, I'm going to say that I've read quite a bit about like Chernobyl and radiation and things, and I've never heard a story where someone just becomes murderous like that. So I'm going to say that while radiation seems probably higher on my list, there's a certain set of reasons that it doesn't work for me. So to say test, probably not. Not for me. I'm going to say it has. You feel silly, even on a show that's about paranormal. But I'm going to say that there is something very not normal about it, something paranormal about it. And I'm going to leave it at that because it's just baffling. I don't know how together personally.
So yeah, I've heard the theories about it being like, they unfortunately got caught up in some kind of military experiment, government/military experiment,
right,
testing some kind of weapon.
But it still leaves too many things open-ended. It doesn't answer the eyes and things. Wouldn't that happen to all of them? Or did it just make one crazy murderous? Well, why so many in hypothermia and not murder then? Did they turn around and murder the one? I mean, it leaves too many questions, I think. Yeah. I may feel differently, but I can't buy that.
Well, and again, I couldn't answer to the reason why the military would be in this part of the country on this specific mountain pass, knowing that there are other hiking groups going to and fro. There's the base camp that I think they were within 10 miles or so,
right?
So there's it just seems like a strange, like let's test a weapon on these people.
Yeah, that's it. I mean,
where there would be potentially many witnesses and
exactly. That's what I was going to say. Yeah. I don't think they want to out their dirty laundry like that.
Yeah. So, the conclusion, or my favorite theory that I've always sided with over the years in reading about this event, that it was some kind of extraterrestrial involvement. I think these people were, unfortunately, unwillingly involved in contact with some kind of perhaps a spacecraft, or perhaps even the beings themselves. That just if I think back at camping, myself, I can remember being spooked at night, from weird sounds to,
sure, yeah,
or what have you. I think it would take some kind of really strange light show and strange noise, just otherworldly, sound and visual stimuli to freak me out bad enough to have to escape from my tent in that manner.
Yeah.
And what else, leads me to that conclusion is another group of hikers. They were coming up the same path. They were 50 kilometers south of the incident. And earlier in the evening, by nightfall, so this would have been the time when the victims had set up camp and settled for the night. They reported seeing orange spheres in the night sky to the north. So,
which could play into the military theory, not for myself personally, but how the U.S. government is.
Yeah.
Oh, you saw something in the sky? We were testing stuff.
Yeah, so I just don't, personally, I don't buy the military, testing in that specific an area. There would be that many witnesses. And, if you're, I hate to say it, but I guess if you're wanting human subjects to test some kind of weapon on, there are plenty of, displaced people and prisoners and stuff that they could have their pick of.
Yeah.
I don't foresee them, as evil as we want to think a government may be or what have you. I don't foresee them doing a test like that on people out in the open. And
right. Not out in the open, at least.
Like I said, it was a highly traveled area.
Yeah, that's it.
There'd just be too many witnesses. So I do think that, whether you want to write this up as extraterrestrial or even, ghostly, even something or other, I think that whatever they encountered was otherworldly.
Well, there's also the theory that there was the Russian Yeti, which is, I believe, a mink, I think, call it MENK. I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong about that. But yeah, there is the theory that the Russian Yeti actually did it. And then I think most people logically kind of cling to one that's called paradoxical undressing. It's actually related directly to hypothermia deaths. It says during moderate to severe hypothermia, as the person becomes disoriented, confused, and combative, they may discard their clothing, which in turn increases the rate of heat loss.
Huh.
Yeah.
I've never heard that.
You know, I can see why people would buy into that one. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't. I just feel like that's one of those, it's like, he couldn't help it. You know, he wasn't raised to understand right from wrong. There comes a time where you're responsible for your own things. And I'm just saying, sometimes I think these things are just given labels. And I'm not saying about disorders. I just mean this, literally just this. I feel like it might be slapping, this is the answer, everybody chill. But apparently it's a thing. So who's to say that it is a sticker? Maybe it is the answer.
So then, even if we were to make that like the official explanation, how do you account for the overnight mummifications?
There you go.
The mysterious internal organ damage and internal brain damage with no external
right,
damage to
yeah, because as far as I know, hypothermia can't do all that. So I don't think you can mummify someone by freezing them. I believe that's a very different process from freezing someone, as a matter of fact.
Well, especially, given that this was just an overnight trip.
Yeah, it was. It's horrible. They take this.
It's not like these people were lost then, and we were just now finding them.
Right.
Then you might have some mummification, maybe. But I'm going to. Yeah, I just tend to believe that whatever they encountered that night was not of this world. Especially given the account that there were the orange lights in the sky.
I can certainly,
which is a terrifying thought, because it, I tend to be one that thinks, if there are visitors from another galaxy to this world, if you've come to that point in your society where you've achieved that technology to be able to cross the galaxy and everything, then you've probably left behind your violent tendencies, I guess. So
it's so rudimentary. It's so it's so primal. You don't need that if you have it figured out. You don't need to be that way.
Because it doesn't say, like, I can understand there's evidence that they were fighting something, but it just seems like, given the evidence that whatever happened, it just terrified them and drove them out into the open. Whatever was happening.
Right.
So, and the theory goes, they may not have actually been attacked. They may have just unfortunately come into close contact with a spacecraft, if you will, giving off that radiation and everything, and maybe a bizarre noise and certainly bizarre lights and everything could have, driven them to terror, and that led them out into the open, exposed, and that could lend to your to what you explained about hypothermia, about undressing yourselves and
right. Yeah, that's what I was trying to say with 6 dying from hypothermia. That doesn't explain why. It only says how. And it doesn't even fully say how. It's just an answer. Again, it's putting that sticker on it, but there's still a lot of questions. Unfortunately, I don't think we're ever going to really have the answers to this in particular. You and I had spoke about it earlier, and if there is like this going tape of history and time, and there is a way to go back and somehow like be there, then I think that'll be about the only way we ever know what happened.
Right, exactly.
It's the unfortunate truth. If anyone out there has an idea or or what do you think? Write in and tell us. We would love to know what you think about it.
Yeah, we'd love to. Where do you side on this? Do you think it was an extraterrestrial? Perhaps even something demonic?
I mean, yeah, let's not rule out anything else, because just because there are this set of theories, that doesn't mean there can't be other things.
Right, exactly.
So let us not say that this is the final list. There are other options. There's things we probably don't even know about that are paranormal, like aliens. We don't know how to consider what they're capable of exactly. So yeah, write in and let us know what you think. And that's pretty much all I have on it. I'm just baffled.
Yeah, I think that's that's where I kind of side on it. I think that this was pretty much an example of involvement with extraterrestrials, and you were in the wrong place at the wrong time.
That could perhaps absolutely be it.
Perhaps the aliens themselves were in the wrong place at the wrong time. Maybe they didn't mean to harm anybody, but just being that close to whatever kind of spacecraft this was, maybe that's what caused the physical damage to these people.
Right.
Hard to say.
Yeah, it really is hard to say.
But I think we can kind of put that to bed for now, but we'll, of course we'll always be, looking for new evidence as it pops up on things like that.
Yeah. We'll be doing research continually on these things. So
they do say that out of the documents from the official investigation are still classified.
Well, let's have a surge of documents just coming out, and let's have a look at them.
What's funny is they had kind of a disclosure thing similar to the event that we had, that released all kinds of classified documents.
Right.
When they released the papers on this event, there were missing. I mean, like blatantly, obviously missing.
That's so painful.
So someone wants the whole story, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth hidden. So we'll see.
Truth is, it's paranormal, and they need to purge the documents and just go ahead and tell us. End of story.
That would be too easy. Then we wouldn't have to have a show like this.
True, and we do need a show. So, all right. Well, I guess we wrap that up pretty good for tonight. We've got another cool story going on with the second half of the show. This one is potentially so there you go. Maybe a little happier. So let's take another really quick break, and we'll be right back.
Sounds good.
There's a new show in town. It's not your ordinary show. Every other Wednesday night at 10 p.m. Eastern, I'll podcast on your grave. Featuring monsters, slashers, ghosts, zombies, and more. So if that's something you're into, join us. Head over to midnightspookhouse.com for all the details. Have you ever seen a ghost? Have you ever heard voices? Maybe you know someone who has. If you're afraid to share your story, there's not always an outlet, and sometimes it's scary. But don't worry about being judged. Come and hang out with us at Spook House Radio, and we'd love to hear your story. Write us an email or come hop in chat. We go live Friday night at midnight, and we'd love to have you and your story. House Radio. Welcome back. We're on a good one tonight, I think. My brain's just a churning. So this is going to be kind of like me just telling you a story for a little bit. This was a new story to me. I actually didn't know about this, and I've researched it all day long, and it's incredibly interesting. I have to thank Megan for bringing this one up. Which she should be here. Yeah, she should be here before too long. So we'll get her on and let her tell her news, and then she can talk about this a little bit too. So enough of my rambling. Let me get to the actual story, and then we'll talk about it. So, all right. So just south of the Arctic tundra lies Yakutia. This is the area that is said to be home to iron copper-like domes that are half buried in the ground. It's said by local folks to be connected to ancient demons and cause weird things to happen to animals and the people in the surrounding area. The area has been labeled oh my God. All right, I'm going to spell this one. I'm not trying. ULIUIUCHERKECHEKH, or the better way, the Valley of Death by the locals, due to a strange illness killing those who stay way too close for way too long. There are many domes that are scattered and are said to be unscratchable and having sharp edges. All of them have an entrance on the top, similar to how you'd get in a tank. Apparently, they're quite warm inside, which is even more strange considering the material they consist of and the temperature that surrounds them. As for what they are, there's a lot of ideas. Some report black-eyed beings, and there are many ties to the great Tunguska explosion in 1908, Chulam in 1984, and Vitim in 2002. Local stories tell that fireballs rain down from the sky in the area. Some even say some come up from the ground, or even out of the domes themselves. In the 50s, the Soviets tested atomic, some to believe that that's probably why it is the way it is. Now, there's a letter from a man who's actually been there multiple times. And in the letter he says, I was there 3 times, the first time in 1933 when I was 10, then in 37, and the last time was in 1947. The Valley of Death extends along the Viliu River. Again, forgive my pronunciation of that. All 3 times I was there with a guide, a Yakut. We didn't go there because life was good, but you could pan for gold without threat at the end of the season. You didn't have to worry about getting a bullet in the back of your head. And that's, I'm assuming, means my life was good. It wasn't murder. So, as for mysterious objects, I saw 7 of the cauldrons, he calls them. They all struck me as texting. For one thing, there was their size, between 6 and 9 meters in diameter. And I've done the math for you. That's 20 to 30 feet in our scale. Secondly, they were made of some strange material. The thing is that each chisel will not mark the cauldrons. The metal doesn't break off and it can't be hammered. On copper, a hammer would definitely leave noticeable dents. But this copper, quote unquote, covered over with a layer of some unknown material resembling emery. The vegetation around the cauldrons is also anomalous. Totally growing around. It's more opulent, large-leaved brick, very long withes, strange 2 times the height of a man. In one of the cauldrons, the whole group of us spent the night, 6 people. We didn't sense anything bad, and we calmly left without any sort of unpleasant occurrences. And nobody really fell seriously, except that 3 months later, one of my friends lost all of his hair. And on the left side of my head, the side that I slept on that night, 3 small dots the size of match heads appeared, and I've tried to get rid of them, but they're still with now. None of our efforts to break off even a small piece from the strange cauldrons was successful. The only thing I did manage to bring away was a stone, and it wasn't ordinary. It was a half of a perfect sphere, 6 centimeters in diameter. It was black in color and bore no visible signs of having been worked. It was very smooth, as if polished. I picked it up from the ground inside one of the cauldrons. I took my souvenir of Yakutia with me to the village of Samarka, Chugyevka district. I'm sorry, I'll try. Primorsky region, the Soviet Far East, where my parents were living. Laid up with nothing to do until my grandfather decided to build a house. We needed to put glass in the windows, and there wasn't a glass cutter in the village. I tried scoring it with the edge of that half of the stone sphere, and it turned out to be amazing glass cutter. After that, my find was often used by diamonds by all of our relatives. Like a diamond. In 1937, I gave the stone to my grandfather, but then in the autumn, he was arrested and taken to Magadan, where he lived without trial until 1968 and then passed away. No one knows where my stone goes. Now, the question is, does it link, do you think, to extraterrestrials? Are these ships that fell from the sky? And, real quick, Megan is with us. Hello, Megan.
Hey, guys.
So, yeah, she's with us, and you all discuss it. I've had the floor long enough.
It certainly sounds extraterrestrial to me. I think that if these cauldrons, as they were described, were a part of some kind of government experiment or, debris from a government craft, I think they would have been collected a long time ago and hidden away. I think we could probably.
Yeah.
So yeah, it certainly sounds otherworldly to me. especially when he described that there was no sign of the material being worked at all.
Right.
So there's no sign of human craftsmanship going in that at all.
That's it. It comes across as this isn't even anything that we even could possibly understand, like what it was made of. It was made.
Right. So yeah, that
Well, Megan,
I
what
don't
do you
know,
think?
like,
To interrupt Ryan, I was just curious.
I'm sorry, I'm a little disoriented. I tried so hard to get here to talk the Dyatlov Pass.
Well, I told her that we could, she could give her thoughts after this story, if that's all right with you.
Yeah, of course. Let's see. I'm not very well caught up on this story. I had read it, a couple years ago, and I suggested it to you, but I'm not well versed since then. I'm sorry.
That's all right. That's all right.
Just creepy.
Well, you haven't had all day to study up like we have either. So, well, Ryan, what did you find in your research? What struck you about the story?
It's still, and I don't want to be that guy that's like always, jumping to space.
Well, I'm always jumping to ghosts, so it's all right.
But I think there would be some evidence of it being, if it was naturally formed, like a geo incident. If this material came from the earth, from volcanic activity or whatever. I mean,
the earth from which it came, from whence it came. Yeah.
When you look at volcanic rock, or really any kind of material that came from within the earth from a volcanic event, there's always evidence of such.
Mm-hmm.
In the patterns of how the rock cooled and everything. But from the description of these cauldrons, and especially the half sphere that he found, I don't know of this world, what that could possibly be. Right. I've never heard of any other examples of, rocks being found like that, being a perfect sphere, and there not being any sort of damage or, evidence of any kind of human craftsmanship to it. I mean, if we go and we form, like a ball, out in the metal shop or whatever, there's evidence of that. Someone that studies, metals and rock, they would be able to tell.
What do you think that it was UFOs that fell from the sky? Because, he mentions like a door to get down into it, like a tank, for example.
And like I said, if this was government equipment or experimental crafts or whatever, anything, they wouldn't have just been left out like that.
Right.
Any kind of experimental craft that, obviously you don't want your enemies to get their hands on. That all of that debris would have been collected, a long time ago.
Yeah, absolutely. If nothing else but to recycle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it sounds like, I don't know if I would write that off as, if you came up with this material, that couldn't be broken, wouldn't you kind of, I mean, I take that as some sort of success. Don't you?
Absolutely.
You've crafted these shapes and this material that can't be damaged or broken, by conventional means. That sounds like something as a government, as much as we like to believe the government likes to hide, things like this from us, I would imagine they would have collected it by now.
Right.
Even if it was perhaps a failure at being a flying craft of sort, or even a tank, I think a material like that would be too precious to just leave out in the open. But that also suggests too, and I don't know if there's any information on this. Can it be moved, or is it part of a, kind of a larger, maybe still buried structure under the ground?
Right.
Because I would imagine that the government, if this is common knowledge, if they know about these things, these cauldrons just kind of sitting out there wouldn't they want to obtain that material and study it?
That's what I was going to say. Would not the government, billions of dollars selling to NASA and things, like the flames there's no chance of it like exploding or imploding or ever being burnt? Like you could just have this rocket that would last for eternity. You mean to tell me that they wouldn't capitalize if they could? That just can't be government. It makes you wonder though if they've been out there to study. It does.
I think they have tried, but most of these have sunken under the permafrost, so they're really hard to get to the actual cauldron now. There are some, like where the tops are still visible, but they're covered in earthy, or they're in marshes, or there's something really difficult to get to it.
Well, but still, wouldn't you? Wouldn't it be worth the effort?
Get your shovel out and go find it.
I was going to say, I would dig a hole if I could potentially become, the god on Earth.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, of course. But, to think to get something, you couldn't grab a crane and go into a marshland.
I'm going to grab my play school shovel and I'm going to. Let's go to Russia.
Yeah.
Well, and, one of my theories is the best way to hide something is out in the open.
That plain sight place again, yeah.
Yeah. So maybe it stands to reason that, if we just kind of cut off all accounts of people encountering these cauldrons as, them being crazy or they're not even real, there's nothing out there, that keeps the government from having to, spend its resources, obtaining these things.
It goes back to the government just letting people sound nutty, doesn't it? Doesn't it always end there?
That's the best offense.
It's the cheapest and best offense. Yes.
You listen to the craziest UFO stories, and most people write them off as they're a drug addict or they're just crazy or they're looking for attention. So I don't think the government. This goes to our Men in Black theory. That I kind of think that whoever they are extraterrestrial in origin too. I hate to be that guy, but
yeah,
I think the government's policy, in keeping these things secret is just let people talk, let them say what they will, because they don't have any physical evidence of it. They're just going to be labeled as crazy by the public,
right?
So,
honestly, it's the same thing as a cryptid. Essentially, once we know what it is, it becomes terrestrial, or it becomes, it becomes an average or normal animal. So, you being that guy, don't worry about it. We're all that guy. Everything is haunted to me. So, what do I know? But no, for real, you're right. What do you say? What do you say? Well, you haven't said much tonight.
I pulled up one of the popular explanations for these cauldrons is that they're a meteorite protection bunker that was installed by aliens to protect humans.
I was going to say, like, what? Ooh. Okay.
Yeah, because one of the earliest reports of this dates back to 1853.
Wow.
So, this is before, I guess, we had the manpower to make giant metal structures like that. But it's in an extremely active meteorite location. So to think that aliens were trying to help protect us is, I think, a pretty cool thought.
It is.
Well, I believe in the ancient alien theory.
Yeah, me too.
It's that's just as plausible of any. Actually, I think that's a more plausible explanation than it being actual pieces of a spacecraft.
Oh yeah, you think so, huh? I'm a little surprised on that one. I thought you would think that it was just a craft that fell from the sky, but no, you think that's okay. That's cool.
Well, I think
I like that.
Again, if these were pieces of a spacecraft, I think they would have been killed by the aliens themselves long ago, especially if we have accounts of these things going that far back.
Right.
That tells me that they would have been collected, I think. by the aliens themselves. Now, if something like this happened in more modern times, Area 51 kind of situation, and you'd have, the local government there scooping up everything and taking all that evidence away.
Yeah, very different times. It's like you were talking about with the wow signal. What would it be today? It'd be like whoa or dude or neat or something. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, in different times, we would respond differently to these events.
But I didn't know that hundreds. So
well, now that's just one of the reports of it being there. But the folklore about it actually dates to some 800 years ago.
Wow.
There
you go.
That's when, let's see, the folklore of the cauldrons dates back to the formation of the valley, that was caused by a cataclysmic event like meteorites, stories of fireballs, explosions, and scorched earth.
Yeah. Remember I did mention the fireballs in the intro about it. I guess I didn't really, even myself, I wrote that intro and I didn't think of them as asteroids or anything like that. I don't know. I didn't consider that. It's funny how all these things tie together when you all start talking about them. I mean, that makes, as crazy as it sounds, it makes perfect sense. It sounds like these could actually protect you from anything. If they can't be scratched, they can't be dented, and we don't know the material, well, it could absolutely be. That in and of itself is paranormal. We certainly don't have any materials like that I'm aware of. Even NASA and things, so.
Yeah, so are we looking at ancient alien evidence, physical evidence? And that's really cool of them that they built shelters for us, if that's the running theory.
Yes, thank you, but we'll need a couple more. There's a couple more people on Earth. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I kind of had a thought that it ties into a lot of how we spoke on a couple episodes ago about how they would want to avert like nuclear war and thing to preserve the Earth. It really, it correlates with that. And I don't know if it's for the best of us or if it's they just don't want the Earth wiped out, or they just don't want a few of us. They need a few of us. I don't know.
Well, and again, you said, I'm not sure if you mentioned nomads, but
did not.
There were reports of nomads trying to use these as shelters to stave off the winter, so they didn't catch the hypothermia.
No matter how cold it is.
Oh, but
I'm that guy. He's the alien guy, and I'm that guy, the bad joke guy. Go ahead.
Anyway, they tried to use these as shelters, and they would stay there only until they began to get sick. And it was, was it sick from radiation? What is it about these cauldrons or bunkers that were making these people sick?
Well, did you hear what the story about it? How no matter how cold it was outside, it's always warm in there. At least that guy's understanding. When he went down there, it was very warm.
Yeah.
Which, any kind of metal material is not going to be warm. If it's chilly outside, if it's 62 degrees, it might be kind of cool.
Yeah, that's why, you get your Bud Light in a can so that the beer stays cold longer.
Are we derailing now?
I'm just saying the metal,
would go for Bud Light.
They might.
They might not, too. Just putting that out there. So what do you think, Ryan? Where do you land on it officially, and then we'll move on? I think we've lost Ryan. I think he officially moved on without us.
Uh-oh.
So go ahead. You actually said earlier that you had something you wanted to say about the Dyatlov Pass.
I did. And this is something I don't think that you guys touched on, was you talked about the hypothermia that set in.
We were actually, we're off air. And we are back. I think we're back. Are we back? We're probably back. We're probably good. I'll just assume things. Aren't assumptions fun? So we're probably back. And I actually have zero idea why we lost connection. Turns out that Ryan's been having connection problems as well. Something doesn't want us talking about it. And I'm not sure what it is, but it's those pesky men in black from last week's episode. So here we are again, and you probably hear Megan over here in the background listening to us on her phone to make sure that we're good.
Just making sure we're up and running.
No, we're up and running. I'm so sorry, everyone, but thank you so much for hanging out because we didn't mean to do that. Ryan is on hiatus for a minute, so I'm going to take this time to let Megan talk a little bit about the Dyatlov Pass. She heard it on her way home, and she has some thoughts. So do entertain us. Do.
So I don't think that you guys touched on this. I think I got to listen to the whole story.
Oh, no. We covered it fully.
No, wait a second.
Okay, we did. You're right.
So one of the things that's really kind of mysterious about the situation is that you talked about the hypothermia and the possibility of people stripping down after,
there was a term for that. I can't remember it now.
We're setting in. But it looked like there was evidence that some of them were trying to double back and come back and get more clothes.
Right.
Did you talk about that?
I don't think we actually, no, you know what? Maybe he said that. I don't know. We talk about this stuff offline. We know better than to waste conversation.
I don't think I heard you talk about that, but I thought that was something that was kind of crazy that, after the initial, danger that was present, I feel like they got away and then they were trying to come back to, gather their clothes or their thoughts or, try to survive the situation, which unfortunately they didn't. But I just thought that was something crazy that, got left out.
Well, we didn't mean to leave it out.
Well, no, that's okay.
We got lost in a sea of,
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think?
That's definitely a story you can get lost in that sea of. I've been reading about this for years because it's so crazy.
I think if things are going terrible and you're losing control, you're losing your brain, you're back there. What happened? That's where we landed on it then, and I guess that's where we'll land on it now, unfortunately. But
yeah, I'm with Ryan with the let me mess up my hair and put my hands out front. It's aliens.
I'm not saying it's aliens, but
it's aliens.
aliens. That's the running theme.
It's really hard to come to any other conclusion when there's no other footprints. There's trauma equivalent to a car crash present in these people's bodies. And then,
And what is alien, essentially? It's just an unknown.
It is.
What is UFO? It's identified flying object. So sometimes you have to stop thinking about them necessarily as little gray men or little green men and just realize that maybe it's just something you don't know.
Yeah.
It could be, I was actually doing research yesterday and there are a ton of different races of aliens, theories of a ton.
Yeah.
So
it goes on and on.
It does. It goes on and on and on. And I read something about our ties. There's a particular type of blood that, could share extraterrestrial blood.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, I don't know how you even test the aliens to find that out. Well, take them on Maury. That's how you take them on Maury. And then you'll find out you are the alien. But I'm getting silly with it. You had a really interesting news story. Are you ready with that? Or
well, I was getting ready to pull that up because I'm really excited about this.
Well, don't get too excited. I found it first. I was really excited about it. No, I'm joking. It's really cool. When I saw it, I was really surprised. You love seeing things like this. They give you that terrifying hope that it could be real, but it's satisfactory, So when you have that up, go ahead and tell everyone.
Well, I thought I had linked you to an article about it, and I just posted a GIF. So now let me pull it back up.
Well, we can't exactly read a GIF, but you called it a GIF. I'm proud of you.
Thank you. So there has been a mummified body that has reportedly been found in Nazca, Peru. And if if that sounds like a familiar place, that is the location of the Nazca lines, the gigantic drawings that can be seen from space, but you can't see when you're just standing right next to them.
That's so bizarre on its own, isn't it?
It sure is. So what has been found is it's a humanoid. According to, it stands at 5'6" tall, appears like a human, but it has really long, it's got an elongated skull, It has 3 fingers on each hand and 3 toes on each foot, and they're elongated with extra joints. So they say that, it can't just be a human that was born with less digits because of the extra joints that are in the hands.
It's sounding kind of ninja-ish.
I kind of thought about Ryan's Frogman with those long fingers, but they're doing a lot of x-rays and research now that this has been found, so hopefully this is going to be a story that we update you with.
I want to know, is it Teenage Mutant and or Ninja?
Now, it's Ninja, definitely.
Okay.
But there are already doubts about the credibility of the body that popped up immediately.
That was my fear,
yeah, because, let's see.
Again, she hasn't had time to prepare for this, so take it easy on her.
No, there are other examples of elongated skulls that have been found in Peru, and those date back thousands of years. But experts attribute that to an ancient practice of artificial cranial deformation. This body does not appear to show that, but it does appear to be from somewhere between 245 to 410 AD. According to this Gaia video, but additional tests are underway, including DNA sequencing as well as a CAT scan.
Welcome back, Ryan, by the way.
Between 245.
Well, yes, we're hearing. There we go. We're hearing ourselves and Ryan at the same time. That's exciting.
Yeah,
we are prone to some difficulties getting this show on the air, aren't we?
It's the Men in Black.
Don't say that. We worry that
You're cutting us off from the internet connection.
This has happened like literally almost every show. We've had problems with this. So yeah. So Ryan, she gave her thoughts. I don't know if you heard on the Dyatlov Pass about did you hear?
I honestly don't know what happened. My internet just completely died.
Mine too. Completely out. Instantly.
More than just a mystery, guys.
We need some backup internets. I heard they got some out heard they got some internet out in
Colorado.
Yeah, they got some internet out in Colorado now. That's a South Park reference. Not a very good one, but anyway. Did you hear what she said about them doubling back?
No, I didn't.
Sorry.
Okay, yeah. So go ahead and just quickly mention your thought on that. Yeah.
Sorry, Ryan, I just talked about in the Dyatlov Pass incident how I thought it was interesting that a couple of the hikers that were there tried to double back to the tent to either get more clothing where they had run away unprepared or, whatever had happened after the initial danger. They got away and then tried to come back because clearly they were not ready in their socks and their panties to be out in the cold.
Obviously not.
I think they were bloomers in those days, weren't they? More than I don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
We get to this point about the end of every serious subject. But no, seriously, that doesn't make any sense. If you get away, you don't go back. This isn't a movie. This isn't you go seek revenge. Why do you go back?
It's like they realized, one danger is gone. Now another danger is present, the hypothermia that will set in. So they tried to come back to it.
And then she spoke of a Peruvian alien, possibly, which is, it was found next...
In Nazca.
Nazca, okay.
Peru.
Next to the lines, which I'm sure you're very familiar with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
yes.
So that's pretty awesome, too. Maybe...
Had you heard this story yet, Ryan? Do you have any thoughts on the matter?
I hadn't. They found, like a mummy, or...
Yeah,
what
it looks like a mummified alien, basically. And they're doing CAT scans and DNA sequencing. What it is it's got an elongated skull. It's got long 3 fingers on each hand, on each foot, or I guess 3 toes on the feet. But these digits, they've got extra joints, which makes it so that it could not be a human that was born with fewer digits on their hands because of the extra joints. They're extra long. But they're, we're going to have to update this story after we find out more. A lot of hoax claims, and
yeah, this day and age, a lot of the stories you read are hoaxes. I always try to check around at least 3 or 4 news sources, but sometimes you just can't. And, I'll never report anything as gospel exactly. This is paranormal news, but we will honestly try to make sure that we don't report hoaxes as news.
Yeah, this is the article I have pulled up is from Fox News, whether you trust them or not.
That is for another show and a different.
This is again though. It's Fox News relaying from another story, GAIA, YouTube video. So I guess that's where it came from. So if there is a hoax, it's on them.
Okay, well. Yeah, we'll put it on them. It's not our fault. We really do our best.
I'm just excited and I want to believe.
Well, that was a disorienting internet outage there. It really kind of takes you off of your spin. It takes the wheels out from under. You come back and everybody's like, I'll tell you what, let's use this properly to other shows real quick and then get to some reader or listener questions. It's written as reader questions, but if you're reading this, you're an alien. No, that's fine. So yeah, let's promote one of our other shows real fast, and then we'll come back and take some listener questions and do a fun little poll and all that good stuff.
Hey,
so
anybody right now, if you stuck around after our little power outage, go ahead and write us in some.
We will literally take your questions live right now. Yes, I mean we've last week on the horror show, a couple days ago on the horror show, Game and George explained to us how Jason and Jaws could work. So we are open for business. Let's do this. If you have questions,
that was an interesting conversation.
It was fun. All right, so let's take our break real quick, and we'll be back.
Do you hate the Ghostbusters? I hate the Ghostbusters. If you're like me, then you should not tune in to the Retro After Dark radio show, taking place every other Wednesday at 10 p.m. Nighty-night.
Spook House Radio. That makes me think of the Munsters every time I hear it.
Makes me think of the 50s, like Hawaii music.
It's like Great Value Munsters.
The Walmart Munsters.
Hey, how's
like
that Great Value moon trip coming along, guys?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm still waiting on that.
Yeah.
Anybody want to loan us about, what, 150 million?
Yeah.
Isn't that about what it costs? Lizzie H., by the way, I don't think we thanked you on air, but thank you for coming and hanging out with us. We appreciate it. Now let's get to some listener questions. We had some really, really fun ones last week. So these, much like our topics for tonight with the Real Men in Black, there's a bar, so they better be good. No, I'm joking. We like all questions. So for the first question, do you think ghosts are attracted to a certain type of people in particular? And that comes from Aurora. I really like the name Aurora for the record. So thank you, Aurora. Yeah. Now, what do you think? Do you think that ghosts are attracted to a certain type of person?
Well, let's look at it this way. If you know that somebody can talk to you, like if you're in a foreign country and somebody can speak your language, wouldn't you want to talk to that person? So I feel like ghosts would move to mediums if they know that they can see them.
Mm-hmm. Well, that makes good sense to me.
Yeah, that's a good way to think of it. I like to think that ghosts kind of draw energy off of the people that are, within, I guess, a haunted area.
Mm-hmm.
And that energy kind of reflects on what kind of spirit you might encounter. If you're usually a positive person, you keep a positive and kind of light air about yourself. I don't really foresee, I guess, malicious spirits being drawn to you.
Mm-hmm.
Unless they're, of course, already, a part of that area or a part of the haunting itself. However, if you are an overly negative person or a very angry person, or you house a lot of feelings like that, perhaps you were being welcoming to spirits of that nature, of a more malicious presence. Now, I should say that I'm speaking of, I guess, your nature in welcoming new spirits to you. Does that make sense? Not necessarily.
Yeah.
If we go to a haunted place, I think you're going to kind of encounter whatever is haunting there.
Yeah.
I'm talking about your openness to new spirits and reaching out to the beyond in that manner.
That's one thing that I thought when Megan said that up front. Now, it's a great thought, but that's assuming that spirits can travel from where they are. I think that's something to consider. That kind of goes into what Ryan's saying as well. You kind of get what you get in that place. And I think that's probably kind of how it works. And I think that's the reason they seem like they're picking on people who are scared of them. I don't think it's necessarily malicious most of the time.
Yeah.
It's just really scary,
Really scary.
Well, yeah, it is.
But a thought to consider is that does your internal aura, I guess, if you're a more negative person, do you give ghosts the ability to, I guess, do more malicious things? Does that give them the strength to break an object or move an object in a malicious way to harm someone?
And that sort of relays back to the way one of I think it was maybe even our first episode, does being open to it make you vulnerable to it?
I definitely think so, now that I think about it, because, apart from hauntings that are tied to a place, there are those that, something can attach itself to you and follow you regardless of where you go. And I have to think that you'd have to be in some way open to that, or it couldn't,
And does the energy you put out, does that give them the right kind of energy to give them the strength to be able to attach themselves to you?
Right.
Yeah.
Or to follow you?
The question is, ultimately, are they up what you put down?
I'm picking up what you put down there, buddy.
No, I mean, I use the silly phrase, but seriously, I mean, what Ryan says, I honestly believe that's kind of how it goes.
Yeah.
So if you're an overly positive person, I guess a bright light about yourself, would a malicious spirit be able to follow you? Does that give them the strength they need to follow their, heinous agenda, whatever that may be? If they're just out for malicious behavior, maybe they can't muster the energy to do that if you're a more positive person. I don't know.
A part in it, I really do.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of a mix of your willingness to believe and then who you are, probably.
Yeah.
So yeah, Aurora, we do think that there's something there. We think that there's something to that.
Ryan, would you to read the second question we have? Do you have that up, or do you want me to do it?
Actually, I lost everything.
Okay, I got it. No problem.
Don't mind.
You said in an earlier episode that you don't believe in fairies. What do you think of orbs of light on sources of water? And that comes from Kimberly. Well, Kimberly, I think Ryan wanted to say something specifically about this one.
Well, I just wanted to. I read the question earlier, and I just wanted to point out that we didn't necessarily say that we don't believe
right
in fairies. I'm just admittedly kind of ignorant to the subject itself. I really don't know what all there is to know about it. So I would encourage you to, if you'd like, write us again and kind of lay it on us. Give us some lore to go on, and kind of give us some paths to follow, point us in the right direction.
Yeah.
I'm not going to close my mind to any kind of theory out there. So that being said, let's jump into that. So there are accounts of people, being out in the woods or even at a lake, some kind of body of water, and they'll either see lights, like spheres of light, like materialize out of thin air, or even, come up from beneath the surface of the water.
Mhm.
And they'll fly around and behave in a very lifelike manner.
I guess I've never thought about it, honestly.
I'm
That's my
not
2
saying
cents.
it's aliens, but I'm just joking.
So, yeah, you gotta wonder what this is. A lot of people, this unfortunately gets swamp gas,
Mhm.
which sounds like complete BS to me. I mean,
Right.
how is it forming in glowing luminous spheres and then flying around? And sometimes in perfect formations. People
Right.
have noted that too. Like they'll, several lights will appear and then they'll fly in like a perfect circular formation
Mhm.
before dissipating. And some people have reported the lights actually coming towards them and even passing through their bodies and just feeling like a warm light, not really like a solid object. Now, are you going to, if somebody explained that kind of encounter to you, would you write that off as swamp gas?
Yeah, no, there's no way you can.
No.
Not if you're honestly willing to believe the person, I guess that kind of ends up on their credibility.
Yeah.
But you go into orbs in general, and I think we had that question a week or 2 ago.
Yeah, I
think
guess
that comes to
looking.
this.
Yeah.
About it, we kind of mentioned fairies and what we thought of that. And again, I don't know the nature of what you listeners might believe is a fairy or what have you, or a wisp, or there's several names for them. I don't know the nature or really any kind of lore behind them, so it certainly could be. I don't know for sure. I don't really, when I hear stories like that, I don't really write that off as extraterrestrial
Mhm.
in origin. I would lean more towards, I guess kind of a ghostly apparition,
Right.
a class 5 free roaming vapor, if you will.
That Ghostbuster show is coming, I promise. It still is. We're still going to get to that. Well, I don't really have thing to add. That's honestly just something I've never really thought much about. I certainly am not closed-minded to the thought. Again, we really just don't have the information. And since it's coming up more, maybe we need to actually do our own research and talk about it some.
Absolutely.
Like I said, I just never. You don't really hear that explanation,
Right?
You hear, oh, it was ghosts or it was UFOs
Mm-hmm.
or aliens, but you never hear somebody jump to the conclusion, oh, it was fairies.
Right.
I think that's something that you hear a lot more in Scotland and Ireland and in the UK, because
yeah.
I guess over here we're just, what is it, predispositioned.
Yeah, we're predisposed to not believe things like that. We are.
Well, I was just, like Ryan said, to explain it off as ghost or alien activity, just is the first thought that would come to our minds,
Right.
more so than the ancient fairies or, whatever folklore that entails. Again, I'm not very versed in that either, so I'd love to research it.
There could be something there.
There could.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Let's do some research.
Let's do it. We have, this isn't really a question. This one tickled me. Oh, Megan, would you like to read this
I
one?
would like to read it. It tickles me as well.
There you go. Go ahead.
So, last week's episode about the real Men in Black freaked me out. You guys are brave for even saying it out loud. That is all. No question here. Don't want to stir the pot. From Anonymous, because I don't want any ties to it.
Well, Anonymous, because I don't want any ties to it. We are glad that, I guess we're glad that, I don't know what we're glad of, but thanks for writing.
Yeah, we're glad you listened.
We're glad you listened, and
thanks for thinking we're brave.
All right, now let's all send his email to the Men in Black and let them know.
I was going to say, we had technical difficulty.
Right.
And geez, that could be a little, for all the technical difficulties we've had.
Yeah.
Hey, you never know, right?
What are the chances of both of our internets cutting off?
It's a conspiracy.
It is. It reminds me of the Bigfoot versus Big Feet thing. What is the proper term? Yeah, I like it, though.
I never thought of that.
All right, so last week, in our parable. Ha-ha, with a name for it.
Ooh, I like it.
Ha-ha, parable. All right, so last week we asked if you believe in the paranormal games. And guess what? We had an even split. But what's even cooler, no one said no. No one completely ruled them out. Half of you said yes. Yes, you just clicked yes. And then the other half said other, and I expect you're right not to say what you wrote, but they were all positive. They believed in at least one or two, and that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So we had no naysayers. Everyone believed in at least a little bit of it. And I think that's where we all landed as well when we talked about it.
Yeah.
At least the possibility.
When you get down to it, if you're going to actually practice that or try out one of these games, even if it's something as I think the Bloody Mary one's kind of silly. That's kind of something you do at a sleepover or whatever. It's still terrifying.
It is. I was about to say, we're not going to be doing it. So
nope.
How many of us can say that we did it?
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Ish.
Ish.
I explained that I went through the ritual myself, but at the same time, something I didn't mention was, that I, in the other room, I knew that there were, 5 other people staying the night with me that were, waiting on me to do this. So, say that I've never done that by myself.
That just proves the devil's in the details. You did it technically, but knowing you were...
Yeah.
Maybe we should write that off as a technically I did it, but not really.
Right, not really.
You have to be by yourself.
In this field, I think the technicalities are huge.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that.
All right.
So, I just had a thought.
What's that?
If one of us did the Bloody Mary now and took our listeners along for the ride, would it work then?
Are you volunteering? Because I am not.
All right, on the Halloween show, Ryan's going in the bathroom with the microphone. We're all going to stand outside.
That recorder, we'll let you have at it.
We're going to sit outside and hope he doesn't die. That'll be fun, won't it? But no, I mean, I'm not doing it just because.
No way.
Yeah. I don't risk much if I can help it. I want to be here to talk about the things later. But I thought it was really cool. Kind of split, but it was very positive results. There were no just flat nose. There were no, I believe, but most of them were stupid. Everybody was really kind with their answers. So thank you for being very kind. We have a kind audience already. It's very, it's got a very community-like feel.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a minute. Let's, so this coming week's poll, it's pretty simple. What is scarier, to be abducted by aliens and kept? Not brought back, but kept. Or to live your life possessed by a demon and not exorcised, actually carrying it with you, or it carrying you, however you might view that. What is scarier? I know what Ryan will say, but I'll let him say it.
Actually, I think my answer would surprise you.
Oh,
let's hear it.
I think being, eternally haunted by a demon would be more terrifying.
If you consider the chance of an afterlife, that goes longer.
Yeah,
I guess that's true.
So if you think about, okay, you've been taken by aliens. I think there's the chance there that I don't really think you would be kept for the purpose of experimentation.
Mm-hmm.
I guess, or at least that would be my hope. I think if you were chosen to be kept, it would hopefully be to share their traveling experiences and share their knowledge with you, and perhaps even see their world or their dimension wherever it is that they may come from.
Well, that's very positive. I like that.
There's the potential there that you're just being taken and you're going to be kept as like a guinea pig and poked and prodded for the rest of your life. But I like to look at the positive side of it. And
so you're saying there's a chance.
I'm saying there's a chance. So there's that potential there that you would be taken for a higher purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that potential weighs more than the straight up, being possessed by a demon for the rest of your life, because I don't think there's any positive way to spend that.
No. And potentially an eternity.
Yeah.
Yes.
Potentially eternity. Yeah, that's much longer than even if you were a guinea pig for a little space time, I don't mean to make that sound cute, but like seriously, I don't know how space time works exactly. So what are you thinking? She thinks she's tired. It's been a long day.
Yeah, it's been a long day.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot there.
No, that's okay. So at first, I think I was going to answer almost verbatim the same way that Ryan did. But now that I think about it a little, now, if in the chance these aliens are malicious, I feel like that is something that you can't escape from if they kept you. They could physically torture you, mentally exhaust you. That sounds terrible. With the demon, I think in some cases, you might get superpowers. You might get some superhuman strength.
I think you're being very optimistic about demons.
You may not even realize you're being possessed if it's, completely gotcha.
I think we're talking about real deal possession here.
Well, yeah.
Just putting that out there.
I know.
But then again, I guess both can be whatever. They can lean a little, sure.
I guess there's still some, at least hope, if you go to the Vatican or somewhere serious.
But we said,
I know you said that no exorcisms, but there's still, I guess, possibly a hope that at least for eternally, you could get out of that.
Maybe eternally, I guess.
I would at least give it a try,
Everybody should try being possessed once.
Let's not.
No, I'm totally joking.
Let's not try
No.
that.
I get what he was saying. It was a joke.
Yeah.
I'm trying to be exercised. I mean, I know you said no take backsies or anything, but give it a shot.
I did say no takesies backsies. Say that. Well, I would say probably I'll go with Ryan on it. If potentially, I'm thinking that if, and I know these questions are silly, I mean, these things do happen, but we make light of them for your fun and for ours. I think potentially that aliens would know how far to push you and how much to sustain you, to torture you as much as possible while you were alive.
That sounds terrible.
That's the point. And then possession,
eventually you would die.
Eventually, but they may know how to keep you alive for 3,000 years.
So wait, you're saying the light at the end of the tunnel is you could die? Because that's
what I was saying. Essentially,
an extremely desperate situation where you think that is the out.
I think that. Go ahead.
But think about the demon. I mean, that could potentially be for all eternity.
Could potentially be. I'm going to say that you're probably not guilty of anything, and depending on your views, maybe you wouldn't be. But we'll say it is. With an alien, maybe they could sustain your life for 3,000 years
and torture you the entire time.
Right. I'm still going to side with Ryan on the possibility that maybe they're just like, hey, you want to hang out? Because you never know.
Hey, you want to come hang out at my house? Let's go see where I came from.
It goes hand in hand with my general idea of extraterrestrials and why they would bother to even come here if they're coming from across time, across dimensions, or across the galaxy.
I agree with you on that sort of stuff.
If you are at that point in technology in your species, then I think you've obtained some sort of intelligence about you.
Yeah.
And with intelligence, there is a lack of violence, a lack of malice, and a lack of greed.
Because what's the point?
That's how we grow.
Right.
No one ever grows from their greed or their hate or ignorance or malice. So I think to have achieved space travel or interdimensional travel, it's just so out there for us to fathom, to truly understand. I think if you've come to that point in your society that you're capable of those things, then it probably would just be to hang out like, hey, we want to get to know you. We like the show.
I guess, if they're going to build us bunkers to keep us safe from the meteorites, then maybe there are
Maybe
Yeah,
we'll
if
be
you're
the
gonna side
chosen
with that
few.
theory, maybe they're pretty cool. Maybe
Maybe
they're
they're-
for us.
You never know. Maybe they just want to sit around and play Sega for a while in space.
Maybe maybe they're fans of the
Sega.
show and
Yeah.
they want the ultimate collector's item.
Us.
Oh gosh.
You know what? It wouldn't be the worst thing. There's worse ways. All right. Well,
Okay, aliens. If they've released action figures of us in your dimension, I'd like to see one. I think I would go through the trauma of an abduction experience if I got an action figure of myself out of it.
so that'll be next week's poll. What are you willing to go through for an action figure of yourself? Well, we've gotten to our 2-hour mark quick tonight. These we could talk more about these. You know what? Screw it. Let's go to 4. No, I'm joking. No, we could, but we won't. We don't want to get too crazy. I want to thank everyone. We always do that, but I feel like I've been forgetting to say write us, or maybe I do say that, but I have been forgetting to tell. So if you go to our website, midnightspookhouse.com, you can click on a link that says contact us, and you can send pictures of your experiences or your puppies or nothing vulgar, please. And you can tell us stories, and
You have just opened a floodgate, my friend.
That's it.
this is the internet after all. All right, but seriously, if you have photos of like, and you think you have an orb or a spirit or something in the sky that's otherworldly, you can actually attach those and send them to us from that page, which is pretty neat. You can do it with email at midnightspookhouse@gmail.com. You can get in touch with us from the website as well, or Twitter, which is @TheSpookHouse, and Facebook, The Midnight Spookhouse. So there's plenty of avenues to get in touch with us, and people have been using them, so they have been working. But
And obviously, you can submit anonymously as well.
yes.
Yeah.
If you don't want us to mention your name, because and I know it can be kind of scary to talk about a personal experience. People will label you crazy.
Yeah, Ryan actually
talk about
had a local incident recently, and people were very belittling, and we are not that at all.
No, absolutely not.
No, if you want to say it was a fairy, that's fine. We're not going to laugh at you. We're not going to instantly think Tinkerbell and make fun of you. People see things. Who are we to talk down to you about it? We have all seen things. Well, not Megan.
No.
You know what you saw.
That's it. You
And
know
no
what
one,
you saw.
And no one can take that from you. When it's all said and done, no matter what people have tried to dismiss it as, you know what you saw, and that's yours.
Yeah.
And we'd like to hear about it.
We would. And I hate to be the guy who's always like, hey, write us. I'm not trying to force your hand. All I'm saying is that
It's welcome.
it is welcome. Yeah. I think for a long time I didn't come out with my story, and we really still haven't on the show yet. Not fully.
Yeah, that might be a good subject for next time. I'm going to talk about our own personal encounters.
It'd be nice if we could get Game and George on maybe for next week.
Yeah, that'd
He's
be
got
good.
some incredibly creepy stories. We'll have to talk to him, no guarantees, but it would be nice to get him on. All right, now next Wednesday, this past Wednesday, we did the I'll podcast on your grave. Get that? Do you get the title? Like I'll spit on your grave? All right, just putting that out there. All right, so we did that this past Wednesday. Next Wednesday, we're going to do Retro After Dark, which is so much fun. If you were alive in the 90s or 80s or 70s or 60s, we may not have been, but we're going to talk about all the things that, in retrospect, the fun things. We're going to be positive, and we're not just going to hate on Nintendo games like a lot of people do. We're going to talk about all kinds of things. Wood paneling, for example. A lot of wood back in those days.
Yeah, there was.
A lot of poofy hair, a lot of fanny packs, and a lot of wood. But we love those things. And if you want to hang out and talk about them, Wednesday at 10 p.m. Eastern, same place, same bat time.
Oh.
I'll never get over it. Anyway, so yeah, that's what we'll be doing. For myself, I'll go ahead and stop yammering on. So I'll say good night and thanks again for listening. Now, Ryan, Megan, you go ahead and take your time saying your good nights.
Guys, thank you so much for listening, and it really means a lot to us. And we hope you'll tune in for the next show.
Thanks so much, guys. I apologize for the technical difficulties, but we're really glad you stuck in there. Come back. We'll be back with some... Sorry, I took credit for that. But yeah, come on back and join us.